Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about silver effects and converting colour images to black and white. Now, I've always thought with black and white conversion that things like thunderstorms, lightning, biblical scenes of epic proportion are absolutely fantastic for black and white conversion. And silver effects is brilliant at doing those pictures. But what I wanted to do with this video is to look a little bit closer. I wanted to take a picture that was already quite biblical in its original colour representation and see if I could improve it with silver effects and with a combination of PhotoLab 7 and silver effects. So we've got three conversions in this video. One straightforward from the original raw file into silver effects, tweaking in there, seeing what we can do. That's the first one. Second one is what I call a clean conversion. In other words, I'm paying attention to detail and realism. And the third one is probably full-on biblical. So let's get on with it. The first one here. Let's get started. So this is our raw image. This is a copy of the original Canon raw file. No processing whatsoever has been done. So let's just go into here. I'll do my usual, apply the optical corrections. That's that. And if you look here, you'll see that we've got a lens softness correction has been applied, chromatic aberration has been applied. So the next thing I would do is get my crop right. So turn on the crop tool, put this to manual. I like my 16:9s, turn on the tool here. And what I'm going to do is bring it down below that rather distracting highlight above the shaft of light. And I'm going to take it up here to move away from this and get the sort of balance of the picture better. And I think it's slightly tilted, so we're going to alter that and we'll take that. And that looks immediately quite a lot better. Now, we saw there was some noise in that, so if we go into the Detail tab, I'd go with Deep Prime for this because I don't want to really clean up the detail in here because of the mist and the cloud. So we don't want to go too far with this, but we do want to see some detail down here. So otherwise it's like, what are we illuminating? So down here, I'd quite like to see a little bit more detail. So we'll go with Deep Prime and we'll export it into, straight into Silver Efex Pro. Now the first thing to do is, let's have a look and see what this looks like in load up. So there is no visible noise in there whatsoever. And this is nice. This has done a really good job. Good. So, looking at the global adjustments, I would make this a little bit brighter. If I bring my midtones up, that's better. Right. With contrast, we can put a little bit more contrast in. We can amplify our blacks a bit. We don't want to go full on biblical, but I would take it as far as that. And my soft contrast, I might take up a little bit there. Okay. I don't want to add structure to this because that will, it's a misty picture to begin with. It was raining. Beyond that, I can play with the filters a little bit, so this will again give me more darks if I adjust that blue filter. And I can pull my mids back up a little bit, and I think that's, broadly speaking, is okay. And I'd apply a little bit of colouring to this. So this is the selenium filter. This is very cool filter. Go with actual blue. That's quite a nice one. The one I use most often is probably this, because it's warmer, and I like just a touch of warmth to come into the picture. So I'd probably add a vignette here. Okay, so this is quite nice. It's not full-on biblical, but it does sort of accurately reflect what was there on the day. The one other thing I might try here is to add a control point around this area here. And what I'm trying to do with this, let's turn the mask on, is to really affect what the light is falling on. So if I make it more sensitive in my luminance and slightly more sensitive in my chrominance, I'll get a better effect. So we can turn this off. And now if I turn my brightness up, I can see that that is having an effect on that area, and this is actually lit up by the sunbeam, so that's quite good. I'd go for a tiny little bit of contrast in there. Amplify my whites a little bit. Amplify my blacks, and what I do is check here to make sure that still looks sensible. Okay, and it does. We've not brought any noise back in. We've got quite a lot of detail in there. So let's go back to the full view. And what I would do then, I think I'd take that toning. I've done my vignette, and I'd simply apply that. Okay, so there's my original, and there's my copy. So let's just have a look at this. Pretty impressive, I think. You know, not doing any pre-processing on this, but we've managed to pull back quite a lot of detail. I think that conversion was good. It certainly brought out a lot of contrast in the shot. And using the controls and silver effects on its own were certainly helpful. I could bring out more detail in certain areas of the shot, and I like the way it's done. It is a very clean conversion. It's very effective. However, I do think we could do a bit more, and so let's have a look at the second pass, which I've done with a view to keeping it clean, keeping it detailed, and just accentuating what's already there in the picture. Let's have a look. PhotoLab has perhaps more, certainly more control over the colour, and that's not irrelevant in this, because we are going to convert what we see in colour into black and white. So it's giving silver effects potentially more to get hold of, and perhaps we'll get a better version from doing this. So let's have a look and see. We've got our preset applied, we've cropped the picture, so we're ready to go. We've got deep prime ready to go. So first of all, let's go in here and see what we can make of this. So what happens if we put smart lighting on? Okay, we're getting a little more light. Is that better on or off? I think that's way too much, but slight is okay. We're just lifting this area here, which is better. Okay, so we can have a look at clear view. Now that's gone what I call full-on biblical, and that is nowhere near what I want to see. Take it down, it looks quite a lot better, but it is applying across the whole picture, so that's not going to do it for me. I'm going to do something different with clear view in a second. To go to selective tones, let's just push our highlights up a little bit and our mid-tones. Now the beauty of working with pictures like this is that you don't need to really rely on fine-tuning your tone curve so much, because it's almost a monotone picture to begin with. There's very little colour information in here. And I would take down, now if I take down my wax again, it's uniform and it's too much for my liking. So we need to find another way of dealing with that. And that other way would be a control line. And we don't want it to go too much over there. So we also do want it to be gradual. Let's just improve the selectivity of that. We want that around there. And we want that around there. And we want to basically drop the exposure at the very front of the picture. Because what we want to do is to heighten the exposure here and a little bit there. So we need to highlight what's going on in these shafts of light. And the way we do that is with a control points. So here I'll put the control point there, and let's make it bigger. Okay, and let's just, we've got that mask, so let's just train that down a bit. We don't need it there, and luminosity, I'd like to see that, yeah, constrained a bit there, so we do that with the luma, and that's, I think, is going to give us a nicer look. So the highlights, and just increase the highlights in there a little. Okay, and that's okay. Take my shadows down a little, highlights up, shadows down, and I can use clear view in this mask to increase the sharpness and contrast. So let's have a look at this at 100%. Go down here. Let's take my clear view out. So there's without clear view, and you can see the difference this is making is quite substantial, and that is going to help to draw our eye into that ground there. Let's go back to seeing the whole picture. We turn off the colours there, and let's just warm this up a little bit, not massively, just a little. Okay, and what I want to do is now bring a copy of that mask, duplicate it, drag it over here, make it smaller, and we just want to use it to highlight that a little bit, bring up the shadows there, and that's had slightly more of an effect. Okay, that's beginning to make sense to me. So let's take that back. Go back to our global controls and just fine tune the tone curve now. So a little bit more darkness, a little touch on the light, but not much because we're in danger of overblowing down there. And let's take this into Silver Efex, and let's do this by hand. So global adjustments, just a touch on the brightness because we want to see this area. Touch on the mid-tones. Let's lose some of those shadows. That's good. Bring a bit of contrast in. Again, not too much. We want to see all of this. Amplify my blacks a little. Amplify my whites. So we get this shaft of sunshine. Don't want to add structure because that will make it look less. You probably want to protect my highlights a little bit. Okay, and this I'm quite liking. Again, we'll look on the blue section to see what difference this is going to make. Okay, so with the blue filter, if we take that down, we're getting a little bit more there, and I think just overall just lift it up a touch. Okay, go for our toning, and in the interest of comparing like with like, I think we'll go with this one, little vignette. Do I want the vignette? I don't want the vignette, right? Now the reason I don't want it is because it's effectively making that area much darker. And I don't really want that. I don't think that looks realistic. So if we look at that there, it's kind of slightly off balance. So if I leave that on, that's better, I think. So we'll stick with that. We'll apply that, and then let's compare them. Okay, so there's a clear difference here. So, okay, looking at that last conversion, I know the intention was to make it clean, make it detailed, and I can't help thinking I made it a little bit too clean and perhaps a little bit, perhaps not too much detail, but it doesn't really capture the danger and the force of nature. So I thought, why don't we edge a little bit towards the biblical in this next one? Let's go full Old Testament. Let's have a look. We'll build on what we already had. So what I would do is I'd pop those down a bit here and bring actually my highlights down a little bit. Looking at my colour here, I don't really want to make that anymore. But let's take the luminance down a little bit, and I think just a little touch on the luminance. Again, with this sort of biblical approach, you want to do a much more high contrast effect. So drop our blacks a little bit further, but the trick here is to keep control of those mid-tones. and keep control of those highlights as well. Those shadows we can drop about there. We'd lifted the shadows. And if we put clear view plus as a global, take it back a tiny little bit there, turn on the contrast, gets a bit more contrast into the picture. And this is looking a lot more dramatic, it has to be said. So let's push that and take that back to Silver Efex and see what we make of that. I have to say, for me, that's way too much. And so what I would do, I'd actually take out a lot of that structural adjustment. It was too much for me. That's, you know, the ultimate, but we want to take it a little bit there. Getting a bit highlights in there, so we're raising the highlights down here, which is a good thing. Taking the shadows down a little bit. Again, another good thing. And our blacks, keep those quite black. So I think this gives us a more dramatic effect without actually going the full and again, it's like the challenge here is keeping control of this area. And I think actually what we've done here is we've really, our backlighting has really come to life here, here. Whether this is to your taste or not, it's a moot point. I think for me this is slightly too much, but let's have a look. Let's add our toning. A slight warming going on. Leave the vignette off and apply, and let's have a look. There's a lot to like about this picture, and actually I think this works a lot better. It is slightly overexposed here, which is a shame, but we can probably fix that. Let's have a look. We'll just drop that highlight out. Now it's no longer flagging. So let's go back to full screen on that. Yeah, that's actually quite nice. We've got a lot of detail here, and it's leading us through the picture quite nicely. I think I would actually go with this copy. Good. Okay, awesome and epic enough for us? I think so. I think this really brings out the drama and the, you know, the magnificence of nature. This is what we all live for when we get out there in the pouring rain with our cameras. So I hope I've given food for thought here. I think it seems to me that you can improve the quality and the dynamic range of conversions in Silver Efex by doing some of the work in another program before, whether that's Lightroom or whether it's PhotoLab 7. Either one will work, but I think bringing the picture closer to what Silver Efex can really get its teeth into I think is a good idea, and I think this exercise has probably demonstrated that. So if you're still here, thanks for watching, guys. I know it's been a long and arduous trek, but hopefully we'll see you next week. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a tick on the video. That'd be fantastic. See you later.